at some exam prep questions. What I will do after this session as well, I'm basically looking at a paper of last year. So what I will do is I will share that paper with you guys after the session on the WhatsApp group as well. So a lot of it has answers in it as well. So if you then want to check if there's ones that don't, just ask that we look at it on Monday, so that you guys can then prep for it. So and again, if anyone joined today that is not on our WhatsApp group, I am gonna put the link into the chat, so that you can just click on the link and you can join our WhatsApp group. So after the session, what I will do is I will send the recording of this. I will send you a presentation. I'll send you the last year of October, November exam questions. And then I will also send you just a link to my YouTube channel that you guys can also look at previous years of sessions that we had. Maybe there's one or two things in there that you guys can also pick up that might assist you. Okay, so let's go into a few questions. So and again, random questions. So some we start off with amortization. We will get into some of the questions of net present values. Then we do some simple interest. We say it's a bunch of different questions. But yeah, once again, I will share this whole exam pack that I got this from with you guys, because there's definitely much more questions in there that you can also look at. Okay, cool. So the first one is an interesting one, because sometimes they give us certain questions they might have before this question nearly talked about loans, and might be that they ask you to work out what is the monthly component that somebody needs to pay, and then they give you a question like this. So here they say the following is an extraction from a amortization schedule for a knitting or knit shop. The loan will be paid off in 15 years. So a lot of information that they give us there, but then they ask us just the question of, but calculate the value. So calculate the value of that payment. Okay, so if you look at a question like this, what we normally would do is say you use the interest rate, you get the upfront number, you get the terms. Okay, so nothing like that is in this question that we will be able to work out that payment. Okay, so now we need to nearly go back to our amortization and remember what this payment part is all about. Okay, so that payment is if we don't work it out via the calculator, it consists of two components. It's normally the interest, so there's an interest component to it, and then there's a part of that principal that you are paying back. So let's just say I'm gonna now round it off or just say it's prints. Okay, so that's nearly the two components that we normally are looking at. So for whatever loan you ever have, doesn't matter, home loan, car loan, personal loan, you're basically paying a part interest and you're paying a part of that original amount you're paying off. Okay, so here they tell us that interest component is 3081.86. And then the second component, they say to us, well, our principal repaid is 1,119 rand and 21 cents. Okay, so what is the total that we need to pay, or is the payment is just those two added? So it's 3081.86 plus 111. So that calculator's batteries per flat. Let me just get another one. 3081.86 plus 1119.21. And our value of that payment is 4201.07, which is option 4. So it's not difficult, but it nearly makes sure that you need to know how the amortization table works. If you set 3081.86 minus the 1119.21, your answer would have been 1962.65. So again, nearly there is an answer for you if you did it that way. So again, just be careful that there is, for that, if you make that mistake of thinking overpayment is the two subtracted, there is unfortunately an answer for you as well. So this one is not a difficult one, but it makes sure that you nearly need to know, without any information, that you could work it out with your calculator how to get to a payment. So that's why I just wanted to include this component, so that and you guys will see when I share that exercises of last year in the Word document, there are a few more around this that you can also practice. It does have answers in as well. So I will definitely share that this afternoon after our session as well. And yeah, then please, as people joining, also absolutely feel free to, if I now share that, you tell me today, tomorrow, John, and you can do it on the WhatsApp group. John, please look at this question on Monday, because I'm not 100% sure, and we will focus on that on Monday, so that you guys just have that final prep on Monday to make sure we cover everything. Okay, so let's look at this a bit different. That was 15 years. Now we're talking about a 20-year home loan, and and what we now see in this one is they give us months, they give us the outstanding. So that first line that they're giving us contains nearly all the information needed to to tell us certain things about this loan. So we can nearly work out the principal paid, we've got the payment, we've got the interest. If we have the interest amount that we paid, we've got the outstanding principal. So I haven't looked at the question yet, but then we can nearly work out that interest rate. We can see from the payments it is the same, so we can work out the principal repaid in, if they ask us, option C as well, so that we also can get to that outstanding amount. Just one thing before we even get to the VAT B, so that outstanding is always linked to the previous one's outstanding. So at the end of the month, if that is your outstanding 493, that will be the outstanding amount when you start off. Okay, so that is just, so again, from your amortization tables, that's normally how we will take that across. Then we will use interest percentage to work out your interest due, and the rest will follow. So let's see. The applicable nominal interest compounded monthly equals. Okay, so now they ask us basically what is that monthly interest rate that we are paying. So again, the easiest for me to do that is, and they're asking it, it's interesting because we can work it out on that question. We might even be able to work it out on the second one, so it should be the same. But let's work it out on the information that they actually give us. So we will work with row 201. So we know the outstanding amount is 503.57 for that beginning of a period. So that's what we owe. We see that the interest that was paid, or the interest due, is 6036.40. Okay, so my first thing that I will do is to say that interest component, if I divide it by my original, that will give me my interest, so my interest rate. So 6036.4 divided by 503.57. Okay, so that gives me, where is my cursor now? 0.012. And then that is the interest that was paid now for that period. But we want to work out the nominal interest rate. So we still need to say that divided by 12, because there's that monthly interest rate. So we can do it two different ways. So we could rather say that component I will multiply by 1 over 12, or I need to say, sorry, it's not divided by, or I need to say that divided by a 12. So you can do it this way, is 1. You could have done it to say 6036 divided by that, and then divide by 1 over 2. So there's basically 2 ways that you can do it. Both of them is exactly the same. Both of them will give you what you are looking for. So it's nearly, as I see it, which one is, again, for you the easiest to calculate. And for me, if on my calculator, if I now do this first one, I need to say 503 point, or 503,033.57 divided by 12. Then I first need to work out that answer, because my calculator does not allow it. Then I need to remember that answer will give me 0.144. And if I put it into a percentage, it will give me 14.4%. If I look at 0.012 and I divide it by a 12, then that I get exactly the same, 0.1440. And if I do that with a percentage, I get 14.4%. So again, please use your calculator how you like to use it. I know with mine, I need to do a few, I've got the HB, so I don't have the nice one that fractions are part of it. So I need to do a few calculations to get to it. So again, use whatever is the easiest for you to work out with. Both of them are correct. Both of them will get you the same answer. Just use what is for you the easiest. Very important component to remember is this 12, because I specifically have referenced again, they want the monthly component. Let's see if we did not include that. Okay, well, then it would have been 0.012, and then at least there wasn't an answer for you. So at least that would not have been given us a different answer to pick. So if you did not include the 12, you would not have had an answer. So that is at least great. Okay, so that is just 2 questions on amortization, where they give you tables. They don't give you any other information. So it's not that they have given you the amount that they started off with, both of them. They didn't tell you the interest rate for both of them. It's not there. They told you how long it is, but that actually, because you don't have any of the other information, that actually doesn't help you. What they at least give you is that payment component. So you might be able, let's quickly check. This is just, I haven't now thought about it. So let's quickly say 15 let's see, you don't have, no, it's fine. You can't because we don't have the beginning value in actual fact. So we can't even use the financial calculator. And the reason why we can't, so let's look just at the information that they given us in both of those questions. So and interest rate. Okay, so normally when we work out any question, we have all the information and we need to get and work out that one piece that's missing. Okay, so because they give us not the first or the last month of information, we don't know what the present value is. We know the future value will always be 0. We've got the PMT. We've got the payments per year because it's monthly. Here they tell us the N, but they didn't tell us the interest rate, so we would have in any case needed to work out the interest rate. So we can't use the calculator because 2 of those things are absent. The same with this one. If they ask us anything else, we don't know what the beginning value was. We know what the, okay, well, yeah, even we needed to work out the payment. We did not know the interest. We did not. So again, that's why you can't really use the calculator for that. Okay, this was also a, a good one to look at. So we're looking at um, cash flows, cash outflows. So all of these are cash outflows. So with this one, we need to work out, and they specifically say to us, let's just highlight the MIRR. Okay, so we need to work out the MIRR. So let's just quickly write down what that formula is. So and please in the chat, are you what into into that what tool are you using to invigilate your exam, and are you guys allowed to use Excel or not? So that is just um, something that so this is basically what the formula is. So for each of these, we will need to do this calculation. So you will need to say, well, okay, awesome. Excel is allowed. So let's see if we can do this on Excel. So we're gonna check if we can do it on Excel. But so if we did not have Excel and you needed to do this, we now would have needed to, and let's just say, so we need to work out that PV out. So you need to work that out for these 4. How you will work it out is you've got the cash flow. So that's the 25,000. Then, like we normally would with any why am I now lost for words? For any compound interest or any of those, remember this formula that we will use. So we've got the interest rate of 8,64, so 0,864. So we will need to work out the present value of that one. It's minus 3. So the next one, it will be 50. It will be that same, minus 5. So then again, 75 will be the same, minus 7. Then 30, all of those the same, minus 9. And then we get a total present value of the out. And so because then we will basically sum all of those to get a present value of out. So that really already is, what is that, 4 questions or 4 calculations, a fifth to get that value out. So when we do that, so I'm just quickly going to write it, and then I'm going to see if we can do it via the via Excel as well. And then I will share the Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to actually just access the one that we worked out with in the week. Okay, so then we have our PV out. They've given us the future value of those inflows. We know, I hope we know the time, the N is 9. So then we can use this formula in the sense of 108,754,73 will be the 500,022.6. That we will put in the formula. It's 1/9 minus 1, and we will get an answer. Okay, so here option C, D was cut off, but our final answer then would have been option A. But let's just see if this is not doable on Excel as well. So let me just open exam prep one that we did in a week, so that we just continue in exactly the same folder or spreadsheet, that you can just continue with that. So I think one we had in the week, we looked at some of the regression. So let's just add MIRR to it, and let's see what we need to have. So let's just make it a bit bigger that you guys can see, and let's just see if we type in, I know there is a MIRR function, so let's see what they ask us. Okay, so they ask us to put in the values, then they ask us to put in the finance rate, and then they ask us to put in the reinvestment rate. Okay, that's interesting because that is what we will need to work out. So let's see if we can get anything. So out of this, so let's see the first one. I see. So they probably want us in any case to work with, let's just see, 3, 5, 7, 9. That was the years. This will probably not work that great. cash outflows. Minus. So what I am going to do, I might need to trick Excel in this one, but let's just see. I think the last one, 30. So let's just see if I need to trick Excel in this one. The interest rate was 8.64. So I think what this is going to do, it's not gonna do it correctly. And I will tell you guys now, because it doesn't see that. And so I'm just going to say 10% for now. Okay, so there, that doesn't work. Okay, so this is not going to work for us. And what we also have not added was the amount getting back. So we have never said what's the future value. Okay, so this is not going to work. But if we have all of that, what we also need to do, what Excel does not see, and that's the problem sometimes with Excel in these questions, it does not see the other numbers. So that is, so when you have all the information for Excel, you also need to make sure Excel is not that clever in identifying all of this. What is also not clever enough is to say, okay, so let's just put in that 500022.6. See, it's just that one is bothering me. So I will check for you guys this out because it's supposed to do it. We are still working out that. I will check for you what is why this is like this, because we are supposed to have all the information. I will do that this afternoon before I send the spreadsheet so that we can just get that. So that you have the easier route to this as well. Because again, if you look at this, you needed to make 1, 2, 3, 4 calculations, done with sum, then with a formula, they given you that, so then you need to do a 6 calculation to get to that final answer. So this one again, not a short answer, a short time that you can just get it quickly. So that for me is a big worry also. So that's why I want to at least show you guys if there is a quicker way how to get to it. So I will just make 100% sure when I share the Excel that you will be able to use it for the MIRR calculation as well. So I will just make 100% sure that is there for you. Okay, so that is one of the nearly component of that cash flows. Um, what they love to ask also is sometimes they give you enough information to say, but use use another one like net present value or profitability index and decide with which one you would go. So they can do it separately, or they can say, but let's throw it into one question. So this one is separate. So they say Tabang invest 1.5 million in a citrus farm. So let's just, and they say we need to work out profitability index. Let's just for interest sake see a profitability index, not present value, profitability index, and let's just use black on this background. Profitability index is equal to net present value plus outlays for your initial investment. So you can put outlays divided by outlays. So that is how your profitability index look like. So now they say Tabang invest that. So that's you've got his initial outlay. Then they say cash flows for the next 5 years are expected to be that, and that. But what they tell us is great, that is, but they give you the net present value. So the net present value of her investment is 345. So we've got net present value. If they wanted you, but again, they will not have a question like this where you need to do 4 calculations to get that present value out. And then a next question want you to work out each of those individual ones over a certain time. What is the net present value going to be? Because that will just, if you get 2 questions like that in the exam where you need to do all of that, that will take you at least 10, 15, 20 minutes on 2 questions, which again they will not do because that is just way too much of time. So that's why they give you the net present value. So what we're testing with this question is to see if you understand how to work out the profitability index. So we've got the net present value 45000 plus the 1,500,000. So again, if you guys, let's see, there's one. So even just looking at it, we know, and I haven't seen a profitability index less than one unless your present value is a negative. But your present value plus your outlays will be more than just your outlays. So your profitability index will always be positive unless your net present values are negative. Okay, so what this is telling me, it is going to be more than one. Because it's more than one, option C is not even an option. But it nearly gives you a hint in saying, 0,23, 1,23, is there may be a link between the two. So let's see. So 345,000 plus 1.5 million divided by 1.5 million gives us 1,23. Okay, so option B is the correct answer. Why there is 0,23, and that is basically to test if you know what profitability index is. If you set -1 or -100% because you wanted to maybe see a percentage, then you would have gotten to the 0,23. So just again, be careful not to be nearly caught out by them and how they just do something a bit different. So yeah, so just be careful that they don't nearly want to catch you out with making something look very similar, and then you fell for the 0,23. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So we've done on this chapter, we've done MIRR, we've done profitability index. I don't think, and let's just make sure I don't think there is, no, there isn't a profitability index on Excel. The probability index will be pi, that is the mathematical pi, so no probability index, unfortunately. Okay, so another one. Now we've got internal rate of return, and internal rate of return, now they ask us to work this out. So again, I'm going to share with you all of the memos, because in there is also a way of doing it with your sharp calculator or with the HP. But again, I want to, so for now, let's do internal rate of return on this one. So let's use this for internal rate of return. I will just add at a point something for you on MIRR as well. Okay, so internal rate of return, let's copy this question in so that you have it. Oh, why it always makes it so big when I copy it. Okay, so You can expect the following cash inflows for the next 5 years from an investment of 1.5 million. So it might even be very similar to those numbers. It looks like it exactly the same numbers. Now they just want investment of return. Okay, so the first number was 150 or 1.5 million, then 610, then 500. Let's just hope every time I do it the right numbers, but we will soon see. And 750. Okay, so this is also on all your calculators. You can put in, so for the sharp, I know you basically put in it as data points. So 150,000 or 1.5 million. So sorry, that's your initial. So that needs to be negative. So you put, if you have a sharp, it will be minus 1.5 million data, 610 data, and so forth. If you have a HP, what it is normally, there's that CFJ function on your HP calculator, then exactly the same, minus 1.5 million CFJ, fixed 10,000 CFJ. But again, I will share that with you guys. And then let's just see again in Excel, internal rate of return. So the values. So what Excel says is, you see they've already got an answer, but they say guess is a number that you guess is close to the result. You can omit it, you don't need to put it in, but if I would have said, okay, I'm looking at these answers, so my guess would have been, let's look at where's the maximum number, where's the minimum, so let's guess an answer of 20%. And then let's just make 100% sure to round it off, because again, be very careful. So you guys saw, if I had on my, and even on your calculator, if you had it rounded off to the closest integer, so no decimals, you would select 23. If you round it off to 2 decimals, like all the answers is, now suddenly you will see we're actually sitting with 22,88. Okay, so Excel, you can do it via the built-in formula, but you can use your calculators. Calculator will do exactly the same. You put that in sharp, it's just under the data function. HP, it is under that CFJ function. So internal rate of return, happiness, in the sense that Excel works. If we look at the answer, it would have been the 22,88%. But again, this one, just be careful, because now that we saw that if we rounded it off to 2 decimals, there was suddenly also an answer for you, which again, that's not really how I like it, because one can very easily make that mistake with your calculator or even Excel, that you have rounded it off to a certain number because somewhere it was like that before. Okay, internal rate of return. What I've done is exactly another one like that. And we're gonna do exactly the same in Excel. So, and this is why I am going to share this with you guys, is now look at this. So it is a bit blurry, but what is awesome about that we've now set this up is that you can now, with this being set up, you can just use this already. So nothing, you can, if you want to take this sheet, you want to build your own formulas extra into it, please do. So Nonsa bought a shop for 120,000. So that is the initial outlay that was paid. So if you see, if she got all of those previous returns, wow, massive. But let's now adjust to, so 15,000 was the first one, 28,000 was the second one, 42,000 was the third one, 35,000 was the next one, and the last one, 40,000. Okay, so what I'm also going to do is, the answer is already correct, but just for that guess, now I'm looking at, okay, there's the minimum 6,66, maximum L or 11, sorry, alpha, Afrikaans coming through there, 11,93. So between 6 and 12. So I would then say, let's guess 8%. And let's see, so answer 9,16. This is what is very important again with your calculators, because I know if you now go on your HP and you do this, it would have remembered that data set. So now if you start just with a question again, your previous question ended off with data number 5. So if you have not cleared your memory or reset it, and you get another question like this, now your HP, your sharp might be different, but the HP will now see that as your 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 0.10, 0.11. So then your whole calculation is going to be wrong, because then it also does not take into account that it is 5 years now, because you have put in 11 points. It sees it over a time period of 11. So just be very careful when you guys use your calculator and the tools, that you just make sure, especially with DSC 1630, because that for me is the one that, of all the subjects, is the difficult one, where you use your calculator so much. So even if you've done your compound interest, then they might throw in net present value, then they might throw in amortization. So just be nearly cognizant of that sometimes there's certain of these things that you guys work out that on the calculator will not clear by itself, so that you need to clear it. But let's go back. This is on the calculator, on Excel. Both of them can work it out. We get the answer of 9,16. Okay, so again, we will not use a formula for this. You could have gone and used this type of formula, but again, if you have your calculator or Excel to you don't want to go into the formula route, because then again, it is just so much more questions that you or time that you need to take to work it out. This was okay, so this is actually what I was looking for MIRR, because here they give us the two investment numbers. So it might be that in the other one we must just use 0. So I will now check that other one that we did, and it might just be 0 because it was all outflows. That's why they did not give us that. So this again can use all the information that we had in this, the same way we get all your present value outflows. We need to get all your cash inflows. Okay, so that's the difference. We did not have any cash inflows. We only had the full amount, so that's why there wasn't that interest. So that makes sense now why MIRR didn't work on Excel for this. But now that we look at this one of MIRR, there is positives, there's negatives. So we will be able to, let's hope, use it in this way. So let's first see. We've got and again, it will be interesting to just see the cash flow if we don't put in the other years, what we get. Because again, we're skipping year 1, 2, 4, 6, which sometimes, again, Excel would not recognize that we're doing it. So according to Excel, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Okay, so let's just see what we are getting, and then if we then it's needed to say the other years and things like that. So let's just quickly, we've got that interest rate, interest rate of 14.25 on borrowing. So let's just add that, and interest rate of 8.27% on investments. Okay, and let's just make sure that is also a percentage. And then they said, calculate the MIRR if the future value of the cash flows is 187,253. So they actually give you the future value of that cash inflows already. So they give it to you. So we actually don't need to work it out. We just need to work out. Sorry. So like that previous question where they told us what the cash inflows was, here they also tell us what the inflows are. So we actually only, for this calculation, need to work out the outflow. So if we would have done it exactly like we did in that previous question, we would only have focused on those two to get the outflow. So we would again have used the 70,000 times that interest, so 1 plus 14,25 to the power of -5. The same with the 80. We would not needed to work out the positives because they told us what the positive is. So let me just quickly, and yeah, I hope I'm not confusing you guys with jumping in between, but so we will work out the PV outflows. The outflows is only on those two numbers, the 70,000 and the 80,000. So we would have nearly done it the same way here, where we would have said 70 times 1 plus 14.25% to the power of -5. The other one would have been 80,000 in brackets 1 plus. Then we have our cash flows, so we could have used this formula again. So I now want to see if by giving us those cash flows, the positive inflows, all those information, if we actually can get to an answer from Excel. So the values, and I am going to put in zeros probably. The finance rate, that was the borrowing rate. The reinvestment rate was that. So we can see if we look at that, okay, it's not one of those answers at all. So let's just quickly do a few alterations here. And let's just make sure that, so automatically you can see that changes. So let's just say 1020, and you can see how it impacts the answer. So just remember, Excel is clever, but not that clever to pick up any of the other years. So, and let's hope now by putting in this last one, we get an answer. So let's just now make 100% sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It was the 11 years. The borrowing was 14.25. Investments is that. That is, okay, so still we don't get an answer. Let's just make 100% sure again. If we click on that, borrowing, the investment component, and then when we get to the final answer, we don't get this. So my worry is with this, that they actually did not think about us going to Excel, because this should be exactly the same. So that really makes me worried about sometimes the data quality of these questions, because we should have had, okay, there we have it. That was my mistake. I did not add a 0. Okay, so you can use Excel for it as well, because that is the correct answer. So that's why we couldn't use it in the previous question, because we did not know what the inflows, there was no inflows that they showed to us in that previous question. We did not have the investment interest rate, but in this question, they tell us money are borrowed. So we've got the borrowing component, we've got the reinvestment component. We knew exactly all the flows, all the outflows, but Excel is not clever enough to realize if you only put in 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11, that we're working from year 0 to 11. You need to prompt Excel for all those other years with zeros. So perfect, you can use Excel, but just please keep that in mind, that when you want to use it, Excel is not clever enough to pick up that it is over an 11-year time frame. And that's why you will see a lot of these questions about MIRR, even sometimes the internal rate of return. Just make 100% sure that this one was now nice, the years was all, but very easily they could say there's a year 5 with 0 and it's year 6 with a 750. So when you use Excel, just remember that there is all these zeros that need to be in place. When we used it for this calculation, you would have only focused on those two to get your present value outflows. So again, if we wanted to work out MIRR with the formula, we would have said we know what the inflow component is, so we know what C is. C is 187,253 because they give that to us. The present value of outflows, when we work that out, would have been 67444,26. So then following that formula, remember again 1 over n is 11 minus 1. So again, if you set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 over 5, that's what Excel would think about, is it's only 5 periods. You will also get a wrong answer. But this is if you wanted to use, change those two to present values, add the two present values, use it as PV out. You've got your investment component, your cash inflows. You can also use that MIRR formula like we did in that previous one, where we did this component. Okay, so again, nearly just a lot of these questions that we've covered thus far, it's nearly looking at one way of asking it, but tweaking it a bit into another way of asking it. So yeah, so I think, but when you guys see the 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 document that I will send to you, I got it somewhere, so it's not my own document. I've got it or from Telegram or from online. Basically, there is a few different scenarios of how to work the things out. So again, yes, I will share this after the session with you guys on our WhatsApp group. Again, if you're not on the WhatsApp group, there is a link shared now. Just click on the chat in the chat of this group, click on that link of the WhatsApp group, and you automatically will be added to the group. So what I will do this afternoon, we'll we'll load the recording. I will load the presentation. I'll share with you this document. What I'll do, I'll share with you the questions that's in one document, and then there's another document that has the questions and answers, so that you can, if you want to, go through that as well. Okay, because yeah, I've just took out some snippets. So, and the big focus today is nearly on the flows component, some of the other things. So net present value, look at this one. Again, they nearly give you a few things in this one, slightly different. So first again, let's see what we need to work out. So they give us the profitability index. We know that formula is net present value plus, and now I'm just going to say II, initial investment, and we know we divide it by initial investment. Okay, so that is the profitability index. The previous question, we got net present value, we got the initial, we could work out the profitability index. Here they tell us, right, here is your profitability index. Feels like a sum that we did ages ago. And when there was something that there wasn't the answer. Sure, if I can remember, we've got the net present value 14,983. But hang on, we need to work out what is that initial investment. We don't know what it is, so I'm going to replace it with the x. Then we need to solve x, so now our normal algebra kicks in. X times that to get rid of the x on both sides or underneath. Then take the x to the left-hand side, so 1.034x minus x gives us 0.03x, which is equal to 14,983. And then if we want to work out x, that initial amount, we will need to divide the 14,983 divided by 0.034, which gives us 44,676. Okay, so this one slightly different. They give us the profitability index, they give us the net present value. We will need to work out the initial investment. Okay, also just one or two clues in this one. So if we look at profitability index, so now that we see the profitability index of this, when you look at the initial investment, very important if you now look at some of these numbers. So we can't really exclude any of them. It's different if it was the initial amount that we had and we need to work out the net present value. But because we add and we divide, there's nothing really that we can say from the start we're going to eliminate. So it's not like the previous one where we could have said, because profitability index is more than one, we know that the net present value must be a certain amount. Here we can't see it straightforward because of that individual initial investment that might be higher or lower. Okay, so again, just a different way of looking at the net present value, the profitability index, so that we nearly cover everything that is needed. Okay, so now we do a bit of stats. And again, stats component, I love Excel for that, but you can use your financial calculator. So as you guys on the sharp did the one where you said we put in the data, that is exactly the same for this. You put in the data, then you just use your different components. So now you're not going to work out internal rate of return or anything like that. You're going to work out variance, or in this instance, standard deviation. So that would be on the sharp. If you use the HP, there again, you will also use the CFJ, but just again, be very, very careful then how, so we will need to use some of it, sometimes the input. So there is also different ways. There's also, where is that on your HP, there's also the sum. So again, when you use your financial calculators, just be very clear on which one you need to use. What we're going to do is, for this one, again, going to show you Excel so that you are allowed and can have access to it. So we need to work out standard deviation. So that is what I'm going to call it. But in this process, we're also going to do variance and others. So just that I know we only are asked to do the one thing, but so again, I want to show you guys nearly that you can do a lot more, or they can ask you a lot more on this one piece of data. And then we have it in Excel that you can just use it for future reference. Okay, so we've got the numbers 3, 19, 27, 15, 9, 22, 12, 5. Okay, they want us to work out the standard deviation. So let's just, for now, do that. We're going to work out the standard deviation. Let's just look at what they tell us. The following information is a summary of the number of complaints received by the manager of a store on each of the last 8 days before Christmas. Determine the approximate standard deviation. Okay, so first thing interesting, they don't tell us in words if it is a sample or a population. So that already makes me worried. So what I would tell you guys is, this is not for the whole year. It is 8 days before Christmas. So basically, they're taking a sample standard deviation. So if you look at the sample standard deviation, there is a function within Excel that does it, and we get, and they say approximate, so we got 8,36. If we round that off, we will get to 8, which is the right number. Okay, but let's do other things as well. So if they ask us the sample variance, there is also a function for that. So variance of the sample, and you can see, luckily, it's not one of those options. But also how you can test that it is right is, remember, variance, if we take the square root of a variance, it should give us the standard deviation. Okay, so you can see then, perfect, that is still correct. Then other things that they could have asked on this data. So they could have asked us, what is the mean? And the mean is just the average of that data. So they could have asked us something like that. They could have asked us, what is the median? So that is also, so I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to add the mode as well, just so that you guys can see all of this is possible. So and then the mode, and in this one, there is probably not a mode because there's nothing that is repeated. Okay, so so that is just a few extra things that you might be able to use this for. When we do median in a question like this, and you're not using Excel, you're gonna use, you write it down, just then remember this data set needs to be ordered. Okay, so this data set needs to be ordered so that you can get to the median. You can see this is where Excel is now, again, clever. It does automatically do that for you, so that you get the same mean. So let's quickly see where the mean was. The mean is the median. The median is the one in the middle of a data set. So there's 4, there's 4. So your median is between those two numbers. So how we would have worked out the median is to say that number plus that number divide by 2 will give me the median, and you see it is exactly the same. So if you do it by hand, if you do it with a calculator, won't be able to work out median and mode, I think. But if you do it by hand, rank it, because that's very important. And when you see those two numbers are in the middle, so basically we're getting the average of those two numbers to get to the median. And there is no mode because there's no number that is repeated. So you could see 3, 5, 9, 12, 15, 19, 22, 27, no number repeated. So then there is no mode. So I just thought this was now a specific question on standard deviation, but I just wanted to show you guys a bit of the other things that might be asked as well, which sometimes we might forget to look at, but we now have just included it into that Excel as well. Then we got a theory question. So you guys won't get a lot of theory questions, but normally what they love theory questions to look at is your that last chapter on the statistics where they look at correlations, they look at determination, they look at some of the regression stuff. So that is normally a very nice one for them to look at uh, at the theory type of question. We will also, if I see other ones, I will include that as well. But let's look at this one, because I thought this was, again, how they phrase it sometimes is weird. But what is the positive square root of the variance called? So we know that the square root of the variance is the standard deviation. So if they didn't need to include this positive, because square root of variance is standard deviation. Positive or negative, it doesn't make any difference. But this was thrown in to make you start thinking about correlations and coefficients as well. So the right answer is standard deviation. But what they've done is they deliberately have thrown in that to make you think about the link between the correlation coefficient and the coefficient of determination. That's why, but that is just actually to throw you off, because the simple question should have been, what is the square root of a variance called? That should have been just the straightforward question, not what is the positive. So just again, there's those extra things that they put into the question to basically totally throw you off and to confuse you. So I will not be surprised if if they do something like this, that they even throw in coefficient of determination and correlation coefficient, because that's nearly the first thing that I go to when I think about anything to do with something positive, because that shows you positive trends and things like that. Okay, so let's look at another one. And here, what we have is data set, and then we look at, they ask us now to look at typical correlation coefficient. So that is also why this one might be even after a question like this, or so that it sometimes confuse one. Okay, so what they are asking us here is, we will need to work out the R, because that is our correlation coefficient. So again, I am going to show you on Excel how to do it. But let's just look at certain things. So before we even go, so I'm looking at some of these numbers, and I'm looking at, okay, a value 8 gives me 40, then 16 gives me 45. Where's the next one? The next biggest one is 28 gives me 55. So that already tells me that as X increases, the Y increases. So let's look at what's after 28. Oh, there was a 20 as well. 20 gives me 55, 28, 55. So it did not go down, stayed the same. 40 goes to 60, 44 goes to 70, 48. So there's now two 48s, but one is 70. There's a 48, 75, 60 goes to 80. So this tells me already there are an nearly positive correlation, because as X increases, Y increases. Okay, so that is just at looking at the data. How good that correlation is, don't have the faintest idea. That one can't see out of the data. You will need to work it out. But let's look at the options. So almost no linear relationship, not correct. A perfect negative linear relationship, no, because we've seen as X goes up, Y goes up. A strong negative relationship, no, because it is positive. As the one goes up, the other one goes up. So there's no negative relationship. So actually, with this one, we could just interrogate a bit and look at the data, and we would have gotten the correct answer, a strong positive linear relationship. Okay, because as X goes up, your exam mark goes up. And there's no point where it was that the X was showing that the mark went down as X went up. So that for me, you could have only nearly interrogated this and you would have gotten the answer. It's different if they ask you to now work and say, what is that correlation coefficient? Because then you will need to go into how to work it out. But let's, for me, it's important that you guys have this possibility that if they ask the correlation, that you can work it out. So let's just put this into, again, Excel. As always, I will post this onto our WhatsApp group. So don't worry, I will put the Excel onto our WhatsApp group. So again, anybody that is not on the WhatsApp group yet, please join. I have copied the link a few times, but please, I think it is important, especially we're probably going to do one or two more questions today, and then if anything that I share with you on that document from last year that you want me to focus on Monday before you write on Tuesday, please, tomorrow or even Monday during the morning, let me know on the WhatsApp group, and I will definitely pinpoint a few questions and take it out. Oh, I missed some numbers because this is not adding up. So 48, 28, 16, 40, 20, 68. Right, where did I now? Okay, there. 40, 60, 55. 80, 45, 70, 70. Okay, so correlation, let's first write it down. And let's just see what is, so there's a nice function in Excel, correl for correlation. Doesn't matter which one you put first or second, it works it out. So there you can see that is really a very strong correlation. 0.97, that is strong positive correlation. Um, so let's quickly go strong positive linear relationship. By all means, that's nearly perfect, not 100% perfect, but nearly. If it was on the dot one, then it would have been a perfect relationship. Okay, strong positive, that is, so yes, we have looked at it now in Excel, but nearly just by looking at the numbers, one could see as the one goes up, the other one goes up as well. Okay, so let's look at another one. And now this one is, you can see it's the same data. I think we will just make 100% sure about it. And when they ask us, what will Lindiwe's mark approximately be using the linear regression line fitted to the data if she has studied 65 hours for the mock exam? Okay, so what we will need to do is we will basically need to say, or we can use what sometimes is also mx plus c, and sometimes there is a B0 and B1 on your calculators as well, that reference to, so just B. So again, sometimes certain things are used differently, but let's just see if this is exactly the same data, so that we can again put it into move for copy, create a copy, that will take out. We will just now make sure, but this is a regression. What we, okay, that's fine. Another regression. We want to work out the slope. We want to work out the intercept. And then we want to write down the regression line. And then where that is going to be 65 hours, we want to know what is that answer. Okay, so the data looks like the same, but let's just, again, please, if this happens in the exam, just make 100% sure it's the same. So 48.75, 28.55, 16.45, 40.60, 20.55, 60.80, 8.40, 44.70, 48.70. Because again, not gonna bash anyone, but we know sometimes they might just swap one or two around because you think it is exactly the same. Okay, so we've got the correlation. I'm going to keep it there, but we want to work out the slope. And now, very important, Excel is they want the Y's first. The reason why they want the Y's first is, and I will show you now, is we so used when we do points to say X point first, then the Y point. But the reason why they do the Y first in Excel is that's how we write the formula. We write it as Y is equal to, so that's why they want, when you put in the data, why they want you to put the Y first, because Y first, X second. So that's just, so Excel is using the mathematical way, Y, X. So that, again, makes sense. So then intercept, we've got the intercept formula. We go to the intercept. We've got the Y's again first. We've got the X's. So for intercept, we have that formula. Okay, so let me see if I can draw. Just want to see, is there a draw function for Excel? I don't think so. Okay, so there isn't a draw function, but now so we know that we need to get this formula, mx plus c. So that's what we basically want to get from the regression line is y is equal to mx plus c, and we want to know now for this instance where she got 65, what is her estimated mark? And so we've got the slope. So we've got the slope. We know that this is the time that she spent on it. And then to complete the formula, we will add the intercept. Okay, so with her doing 65 hours, the expected outcome and the expected mark that she will get is 84%. So we could have done this, and let's do a few of them. So we just make sure that we copy that. So if she spent 0 hours, she will most likely get 35%. So let's see if she, and we didn't, so we had 8 hours spent to get 40. So it makes sense. If she spends nothing, it will be less than 40. But let's say now for you guys writing on Tuesday, you take the rest of today, so say there's 12 hours, you don't sleep tomorrow, 24 hours, you don't sleep on Monday, 24 hours, so that's 48, that's 60, and let's say you have spent already 30 hours on this. So let's say you're going to spend 110. So now you can see that is not actually going to be possible. So at this stage, you probably not going to get more than a certain amount. So if you spend 70 hours, the expected outcome is that you will get 88 marks. 50, I don't think there was somewhere. So if you spend 50 hours, your expected outcome is 73. Okay, so that's just again, if you look at this data, we've now done the one where we worked out the correlation, but also now we've worked out some of it where they ask us to look at a regression line and things like this. Again, if you now look at this, if you're not using Excel, you will need to use your calculator for this. So again, with your sharp, you need to put in the X and the Y for each of them, and then you have those B and M's and things on your calculator to get to it. My HB exactly the same. There is the input, so on that input you will do the X first, then the Y. You need to do it for, I think, how much was it? There's 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you will need to do it for all those 9. And then again, depending on if you have a HB2 or a HB2 plus, there is the functions on your calculator, depending which one. There is a B, there is a M. So that does give you the things that you're looking for. Again, very important is if you now had for both questions, if you did this and you got your coefficient correlation, as we said, was 0.97, you got that answer. You go to the next one, and at first you don't realize that you have the same data and you want to use, and again want to start putting in the data. Again, remember you need to clear the memory of your calculator. Else, if you now start with this, you're going to add that as row 10, 11, 12, 13. So just again, be very cognizant of your financial calculator, that nearly, if you don't tell it to clear its memory, it's not going to do it on its own. And see, I'm with you on that. I love Excel because it just have it's just easier, and you can quickly pick up, like when you guys saw when I did the previous one here, when I now suddenly had a double number somewhere and it didn't add up, I could just move it. And if that was on my financial calculator, I would probably most likely have started over, because I would not have known where I made that input error. Um, so that is also sometimes why I don't like the financial calculator, is you can't nearly, yeah, I could again check, those my numbers, perfect. I know my numbers is correct. Sometimes with a financial calculator, you don't have that luxury of picking up if you inputted 20 instead of 21 or something like that. But again, I know there's some of you guys that love the financial calculator, that's very quick with it, use it. Don't now try to, in the next day or two, if you don't know Excel now, suddenly need to learn Excel and things like that. Use your financial calculator. You guys have been working with it now for the whole semester. So if you like your financial calculator, continue. If you love Excel, then I am going to share this spreadsheet in any case with you guys on the chat a bit later. So I will share it. You will get it. Yeah, so please, that's it for today. But please share. I am going to share with you that document of last year's October, November 2023 question pack. Please go through it. Let me know if there's any of those that we need to focus on Monday, so that we just make sure that we cover everything that you're not sure on. We cover it on Monday, that you have then still a bit of time to make sure that you know it by Tuesday. What time are you guys writing on Tuesday? That's also a important one to know. So if you can just put in the chat what time you are writing, that will be great. Then at least we know if there's a bit more time in the morning. Else it is, the assumption is at 8, but